What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're doing well today. Today, I'm excited to bring you my review of the Asher knife Niro. I've had this one for 3 or 4 days now, probably about 3 days. Today would be the 4th, but it's not quite over. I did pick this up, and I think I may actually have grabbed the last one. So let me go ahead, again, changed my format here, just in case you aren't aware. I do the unboxing you can see everything that comes with the knife, and this is everything that came with my knife. You know, I didn't pull it out to see if there was anything underneath, and that doesn't feel easy to take out. So this comes in this box. It didn't have any paper wrapped in it. So it comes with that box. Let's go ahead and dive into the specs really quick. We'll do the comparison knives, and then we'll talk about comparable thoughts and impressions. Actually, thoughts and impressions and comparables. The Asher Niro has a 3.2-inch S35VN blade, 4.2-inch G10 handles for an overall length of 7.4 inches, and the claimed weight of the Niro is 3 ounces. Let's grab the scale really quick and check that weight out. A little bit less, so 2.8 versus the 3 ounces that it claims to weigh. Let's run through the comparison knives really quick. This is for size reference only. First, we'll bring out the Spyderco Yojimbo 2, also relatively close in size to the Para 3, close enough to where it can represent it. Next, we'll bring out the Spyderco Shaman. As you can see, this is just a smaller blade with a very similar handle length to the Para 3 and the Yojimbo 2. Very, very close handle length. Let's see. I think that's pretty lined up. Might need to come back just a little bit on the Yojimbo 2. So hopefully that helps you, and I'll bring them up just a touch because I am really close on the bottom of the frame. I am using the bottom portion of this so that you can get a really good indication of the size. All right, let's go ahead and bring out the crossbar locks, and one of the knives that I think that it compares to really closely, and that is going to be the Benchmade Bug Out. I think this is just really close in profile, size, not in weight though. Even with the titanium scales, I am coming in at 2.8, which this claimed 3, but it's 2.8 on the scales. I think it's 2.8. Gosh, let me check. You know, it's been a little while. Let's see here. I think it is 2.9. So it is a little bit lighter than it is with the titanium, and you are getting S35VN versus S30V, but you're getting more blade for sure with more cutting edge on the Benchmade Bug Out. We'll bring in the SIG K320 made by Hogue out here. Again, if you're familiar with these knives, you can see overall that the Niro is just a little bit shorter. All right, let's get these guys out of the way, and then we'll bring in the budget knives. First up for the budget knives is going to be the Kubi KU321, also known as the Kubi Royal. And we're going to do these pivot to pivot because I want to show that the Niro actually has a longer handle but still has a shorter blade. Even though it claims to be 3.1 inches, when you look at these blades from pivot to pivot, 3.1 versus 2.99, did you guys ever realize that it's that close? I honestly thought 3.1 was going to look substantially longer, but it barely looks longer, and it doesn't even really look longer here when you line them up at the pivot. Next, we'll bring out the Buck 110, and as you can tell, the Buck is just overall a longer knife. Let's go ahead and jump into thoughts and impressions, and then we'll talk about some comparable knives that could match up to this. So first and foremost, you do get S35VN. You're getting this knife for around $70 before shipping. It has a black wash blade, but they also have a satin model. I don't know if they're going to be bringing more of these in stock, so if you're interested, make sure you head over to the website and sign up for notifications. Has a very interesting drop point shape. Almost looks like it's perfectly centered with the pivot, but it actually is just a little bit taller. From a utility perspective, you do kind of have to get up a little ways. It's not awful, but it's okay. It does have a flat enough belly here. Almost looks like it has a recurve to it right here. It looks like it comes back up some. So it looks like it kind of drops down just a hair and comes back up. I'm not quite sure if that's me, if it's the angle or what's going on, but it does look like it has a tiny bit. I could be wrong. It has a flat grind and it's abrupt. It is a medium geometry knife. It looks like it'd be really thin, but it comes down to a very thin edge, but immediately goes to the middle part of the blade steel and the thickness there. G10 handles on it are not smooth, but they don't have much texturing to them. You can feel just a tiny bit of grip when you hold them, and it actually feels quite comfortable in hand. You got a little bit of contouring going on, and that's where you see that cross cut going. So it does actually feel very comfortable in hand. It's actually a little bit longer for my large hands than I actually need. They could have shortened this up a little bit, which I think would actually improve the aesthetics, because it has that para 3 unbalance going on, but the para 3 pulls it off, I think, because it has such a tall blade for the thumb hole. So it doesn't look as odd. This looks a little misproportioned to me, a little bit too short and a little bit too skinny of a blade. I would have liked to have seen it looking more like, and I mentioned it earlier, more like the bug out here. I think that blade would have actually looked much better on this handle. And I'll pull it up here without trying to mess up my titanium too much. But I think that that aesthetically would have looked a little bit more pleasing to me, in my opinion, if it would have had that type of blade on there. So I think from that perspective, I'm not really vibing with this knife from that perspective, but that's not to say it's a bad knife. The action on it is really good, but as you can see, has a little bit of lock stick. So that's one thing that concerned me. It had a lot of grease on there. It was actually grinding when I first got it, but I was able to kind of clean a lot of the grease or lube or whatever it was off of the lock bar, and that really improved it, but it still has lock stick to it. It'll probably go away eventually, but the other thing that I don't like is the cutout for this, even though it does have a little bit of cutout. It's very uncomfortable to unlock, and I don't know if that's because of the lock stick that's causing it to hang up is the issue or what's going on here, but I just really don't like this lock bar setup. I think they probably need to make it a little bit thicker. They knocked it down so it's a little bit smoother, but honestly I think, and I'm trying to think of a knife, probably the Kubi, right? I think if they would have cut into the G10, which they did, and I think that's the other problem. It's just such a thin lock bar. And it is a thinner knife, but I think if they could have just made it a touch thicker, even if they needed to make the G10 just a little bit thicker and come out with the contouring more like they did here. You see they don't come out as much as it does on the Royal. I think that would have been something that would have fixed it, because this is much more comfortable to operate, in my opinion, and much easier to access when it has the texturing going across it instead of the chamfering to knock it down. That, or I guess just round off the edge and don't chamfer it down so much, but it's actually just a little uncomfortable for me to operate. You might have a completely different experience with the lock bar on that. Now, what I do like is that they threw a plate on here for the reversible piece, because in the hand it feels smooth. You don't feel that it's there. It's okay aesthetically. I think if they could have matted that down, maybe it would have looked a little bit better, or if they would have maybe washed it so it matched the blade, I think that would have looked cooler. But it's fine, and I appreciate the fact that they threw it on there, because a lot of manufacturers don't do that. Some manufacturers will just, and I don't have an example nearby. Oh well. Some manufacturers will just throw it on, the scale on there without putting anything on the other side. And I'm sorry, I'm going through my knives while I'm trying to do this to see if I have an example where there's a cutout, and wow, I have none. So never mind. The other thing, I do appreciate the fact that they give you the deep carry pocket clip. I love that it's comfortable. I don't have anything really poking. I can feel that it's there, and only because there's a difference in the texturing, it doesn't feel uncomfortable. It doesn't feel even a slightest bit hot in hand. It feels nice. What I wish they would have done is they would have copied what Civivi does, and they would have used the top barrel. Oh, wrong knife. Where's the one that, here we go. Yes, the top barrel for the pocket clip, and brought that all the way up to make it truly deep carry, because you have a good deal of knife out. And for something this size, which I think is clearly geared at being an EDC knife, it would have been nicer for the pocket clip to completely submerge it into the pocket. I'm not sure what's going on with the clear G10 backspacer. Doesn't glow in the dark. I was like, ooh, maybe it glows. Nope, doesn't glow in the dark. It's just translucent, and not really for me. Now, you may like the fact that it breaks it up, but I don't know. It just doesn't really talk to me, and I wish it would have been a little bit shorter, because the standoff is all the way here, and I don't think you can get to that part of the blade, because that part of the blade is actually where it starts to get really skinny. So they could have made it a little bit shorter, probably saved a little bit more weight. I like the fact that it does go all the way around, though, and it does help to show the centering. I feel like that's a nice point of reference, especially on the black wash. So the pocket clip is slightly inset, but I thought it was a little strange that some of it still sticks out. So I'm not sure if there was just not enough room with this being milled out for the liner, or what happened there. But again, I think if you do like what I mentioned with the QB, and you make this a little bit thicker, and you can make that liner a little bit thicker, this is going to be much nicer. The action is really good on here. No complaints about the action. Really like the thumb studs. I don't know. I wanted to check these close together. Yeah, they're kind of styled very similar to the Bug Out, which is a good thing, because I really think the Bug Out has some of the nicest thumb studs in the business. Now, for a $70 knife, this is not that bad of an offering. You get S35EN, good action. You get what feels like a well-built knife. It does feel like it's very well built. Don't really love the blade shape on it. I don't like the liner lock and the fact that it sticks. I don't like the translucent G10 backspacer. I would have liked it shortened up and just being black. It would have been just fine with me. Or you could have just done the barrels. That would have been good also. I would also suggest for this particular knife that they move the pocket clip up, integrate the screw, the top screw, into the pocket clip, and make it completely deep carry. Fantastic job on the pocket clip. Goes in and out of the pocket well, very nice and springy. So I do like those things. So those are all the pros and cons. What would I recommend in place of picking this up? The first thing I'm going to mention is one that I put up on the channel recently, and that is going to be this Blade HQ exclusive Kershaw Skyline with 20 CV blade steel, made in the USA, with nicely textured G10 scales. Really good access to the lock bar. It has that lock bar that I like that has the jimping on it. You set right on top of it and you get into it. I did mention the fact that I had to tune the D10. It was a little weak. The action is not going to be as good as the ceramic bearings, but it is going to hold up better in dirtier and harsher climates and environments if you're using your knife in that area. But it's never a bad thing to have solid action on phosphor bronze washers. It has a really nice stone wash to it, but you are limited to the Blade HQ exclusive if you want the 20 CV. But the nice thing is that gives you the option to dye it whatever color you want. Haven't found a better option for the pocket clip. The pocket clip definitely on the Asher is a lot better, but the Asher being $70 for S35VN and a very small S35VN blade versus the blade that you're actually getting on the Skyline for $99, you're getting technically more steel for the money from Kershaw, and you're getting a phosphor bond washer that has good action, which is going to be better for dirt. But I imagine if you're looking at these, you're looking at them for an EDC, and really if the ceramic bearings and the pivot are in there, they're going to hold up just fine. They're not going to pick up a ton of dirt. Ergonomically, I would probably give the advantage to the Asher. It does feel a little bit more full in hand, but that doesn't mean the Kershaw is not comfortable. Now, if you wanted something a little bit different that I still like, I got two more options for you. First is going to be the Damned Designed Hades. This one here is 110 with 14 C28N, but if you pick up the G10 variant, I think those start at $60, and it's $80 if you want the S35VN variant. And to me, I feel like this has better ergonomics. I think they did a better job with the liner lock. They give you nice jimping access here, very easy to actuate, feels very good. And I don't know if the G10 is like that, but you do get the kick plate, and they integrated it into the standoff so that it is fully deep carry, which I do like. You also get dual means of deployment with the Hades, having the flipper tab and the thumb cutout here that you can use both with the thumb, with the finger for the reverse flick. So really good option, and I definitely like this one better. Now it is a little bit bigger and there is a little bit more presence, but I like the weight and the size and the girthiness of this knife a lot for an EDC. It still feels very good in hand. Another option that I would recommend if you didn't like the size of the smaller Kershaw would actually be the Case Kenzua. This has S35EN aluminum handled frame lock with really good access. This is on bearing, so it is very, very smooth. Has a nicely done detent, and it has a beautiful stone wash to it that Case did in-house. The edge came okay. It was definitely a working edge when I got it, and I did strop it up to make it a little bit more EDC friendly, but man, once I did that, it worked really, really well, and it truly does have a more deep carry pocket clip to it. As far as size reference, here is a reference in size for you. Not too much more knife going on there. You're getting more blade for sure. So those would be my alternate recommendations. For me, I would say this is probably a pretty decent buy, but I would take a pass on it. I would actually pick up one of the other knives that I mentioned for me personally. I just think the aesthetics for me are a bit of a miss. I think it would look better if it had a better blade to handle ratio in this instance. I think it would have done better to have a deeper carry pocket clip, and I really just don't like operating the liner lock. It sounds and feels rough and awful, and that could just be I got unlucky in that instance. But even then, the thinness of the liner lock on here and the way that it feels against my hand, I don't like it. I do love the action in the thumb studs. I feel like that is very well tuned in, and the G10 feels like, I know it's just G10 and G10 is G10, but it feels really nice and it feels more premium than what it is. I would just take a pass on this. I would look at something else if I were you. If you like the S35EN for 70, you got the Case for 115, or you got the Kershaw that has 20 CV, that's 99. And of course, you can always check out the Damned Design. They have both 14C28N and S35EN variants with G10. You just have to be on the lookout because those do sell out quickly. If you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor, leave a like. If you haven't subscribed, consider doing so. I don't know what you're waiting for. If you're already subscribed, you are awesome. Thank you for supporting me, supporting the channel. I hope all of you have a fantastic week. Until next time, peace.